Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for Magic is Real. This is the podcast where we talk about spiritual journeys such as near death experiences, out of body experiences, but not just that. We talk about all things metaphysical and spiritual. We talk about spiritual healing and all aspects of who we are, what we're doing here, what's happening in the greater universe from the perspective of my wonderful guests who bring this all to life with their own unique insights. So, if you like this podcast, please, would you just introduce yourself below in a comment? It really helps the algorithm so that it knows to share this podcast with more people. I'm very proud of this podcast. It's my passion project, and all you need to do is like, subscribe, share, comment if you are called to do so. Thank you so much. Today I have with me Natalie Sudman. I'm so happy to have her with me. She is a very talented artist. For many years was an archaeologist and then a project manager in Iraq. And she's told this story so many times. And in fact, I've just read her book. Ooh, where is it? It's Application of Impossible Things, My Near-Death Experience in Iraq. And I want to recommend this book because it's, first of all, look how easy it is for someone like me with ADHD to read, but it's also beautifully written, very beautifully written, and very succinct at the same time. If you want all the details of her NDE, she wrote it here so she doesn't have to tell it over and over and over 100,000 times. But we are here to talk about this near death experience, but also about her, the insights she's gleaned, her life, her perspectives. So, Natalie, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with me today. It's so good to finally have met you. I've known of you for quite some time.
Thank you for having me.
What a
Thank you very
pleasure.
much. And for the kind introduction. Thank you.
Oh gosh, of course. I know so many people come on and they've told their story so many times and they're graciously doing it again. So I just want to honor you taking the time and energy to do that for listeners who may not have heard your story and also for listeners who have. But every podcast, you reveal something different. All of you do because you are interacting with a different host. So I'd love to know about you because you are a very highly intelligent, interesting person, even apart from your NDE, and I can attest to that with just seeing how you write and all of the great work that you've done, sort of in the intellectual sphere, but also you're a very worldly person. So I'd love to know about you as far back as you feel comfortable going, about your maybe your upbringing and what led you into such interesting work.
Yeah, so I just grew up in middle America suburbia, a suburb of Minneapolis. My parents were both from rural South Dakota, so I grew up around um, or vacationed at farms and ranches, and my parents kind of raised us like farm and ranch kids, like send them out in the morning and here's a sandwich at noon and see you tonight. So I had a lot of freedom to run around. Um, I really started, I remember when I was a very little kid, um, talking to spirits or being aware of spirits, especially out in western South Dakota when we were out visiting my grandfather's ranch. But also having dreams that then came true. Um, and when I was when I'd go to church, I would stare at someone and think, scratch your ear, scratch your ear, scratch your ear, until they scratched their ear, and usually they would. So I was always uh, interested in things that I guess now we attribute to the spiritual. But at the time, I just assumed everyone did these things. I didn't talk about them, and they didn't seem notable when I was a kid. Um, I just thought they were normal. And and then when I was in high school and college, I kind of, I got uh, more sort of consciously interested in some of the metaphysical things. I think I read a Seth book in high school, and um, probably I think I had some tarot cards in college. It's just I was aware by that time that that people didn't think this was real, or that that whatever I experienced might have been considered by some people to be extraordinary. Um, yeah, but it was always interesting to me. I didn't maybe about 8 or 10 years before I went to Iraq, uh, I started taking it maybe more seriously and doing some real meditation and getting really interested, not just in practicing uh, psychic skills or um, getting better reading cards or whatever I chose to do. I was also interested in the implications of those things. If I could, if I could do a psychic reading for someone, um, then then what was I reading exactly? You know, it interested me to think about, was I reading this off a kind of communal field, or was I reading their field, or you know, how did that work? And if I read something in a future, was that was that locked in? Was that a probability? If I could, if I was reading people's minds or reading people's fields, why was I doing that? And other people were not necessarily doing that, or were we all doing it all the time? Those kinds of things really interested me. Um, I think that um, I think that in the Western world, the a lot of spiritual kind of pursuits are aimed at gaining certain skills or refining certain skills. And when I was in high school and college, I read quite a bit about Eastern religions and Eastern philosophies. And it interested me that a lot of those emphasized a way of being that then those skills were side effects of. Like the more you the more you came into an alignment with a higher awareness, those skills just showed up. And so the skills came with a uh, sitting within some level of wisdom. Whereas when you just aim to acquire skills, um, how are you using them? You know, like what's your basis for using them? It I I wondered if we were missing the wisdom piece. And so that kind of was also an interest of mine. But I really, before I had my NDE, I had not done very much reading about NDEs. I think I'd read a couple. Um, I wasn't, I wasn't too interested in the accounts because they seemed, the ones that I read spent a lot of time talking about what led up to whatever the emergency was, or the incident was, and then a lot of time afterward, but not very much time telling me what went on when they were in that within that NDE, when they were out of their body or in a different state of consciousness. That's what I wanted to know about.
Yeah.
So after I had my NDE, I thought, well, here's my chance. And that's really how I wrote my book. I really wanted to give people as much information as I could um, about what I experienced when I was out of the body, because we all know what it's like to be in the body, and a lot of us have had emergencies, or you know, whether they're physical, mental, emotional, and I don't want to kind of add to that I don't want to add to that trauma field. You,
Yeah,
you can imagine that part if you want to, you know.
right.
But it really interested me to share some of my experiences out of the body. Okay, so this went probably really off base from your question.
Not
I
at
feel
all.
like I'm just rambling.
It didn't, no, believe me, that's everything that I wanted to know. And I think what's really interesting is so many near-death experiencers already were aware of their gifts beforehand,
Mhm.
or had an awareness. Not everybody, but a lot. And I wonder, maybe we'll never know, but you came in having these abilities, and you said something in the book that I say all the time. And I actually wrote in my book too, which is not finished yet, but I said that there's this what I think is sort of a falsehood, which is the word paranormal and the word supernatural. And I always say these things are actually normal and natural. And we just think they're not because so many people, we've been conditioned out of using these abilities, or we're told growing up that it's all fantasy, it's not real, face reality, because it can be hard to see outside of this 3D world. Very hard. Even knowing it, I sometimes have trouble keeping the faith that there's something bigger happening here. Keep the faith. So I do wonder if you have any insight or idea about whether or not this NDE happened to you as part of your sort of plan to sort of reawaken that or share, or is it just something that happened and it just was a coincidence that not only were you already tuned into your abilities and the universe, then this happened, and were the two things related, do you think? I find that a lot of people had the experience of they already were seeing spirit, talking to spirit, doing psychic readings, and then bam, this was like the wide awakening where it was like, all right, now you have work to do and go and use your abilities to heal. So I'd love to just hear what your personal feeling is about that.
Yeah, I think everybody's different. Infinity is infinite, and I think that we can have uh, there can be so many reasons why someone has an NDE or why someone remembers it.
Yeah.
Um, I think that I think maybe that people who are already using some abilities or at least aware of or curious about some abilities maybe have more inclination to remember what they experienced. It may be that everybody has these experiences, but it doesn't necessarily serve them to remember, or they're so they're so focused on this lifetime in a physical body and in a in the conscious personality that it's hard for that memory to get through. For me, I think that I don't think I planned this. That's not how I remember this
Yeah.
experience. I really had this sense that there there were a lot of choices. To, um, there were a lot of choices of experience, and this one just how do I put this? Um, we make choices, we make decisions, and they kind of put us on a pathway that gains a certain amount of momentum. So I went to Iraq. I was working for the Corps of Engineers, so I was around certain people. I was given certain kinds of jobs that put me outside the wire a lot, and sort of it created this momentum that created opportunities for experiences. And my my understanding or my interpretation of what I remember when I was out of body was that this was one of many potentials. And it just so happened that it aligned with some other people's potentials. It fit right in. It would accomplish whatever I had intended to accomplish. And so I went ahead with that. I think that from what I've been shown, any future is potential. It, it's it's I've seen nothing that's been like this is written and you're not going to get around it. What I'm always shown is uh, that our potentials are created through our own personalities, our own choices, our own decisions, and the fact that we are participating in a communal universe. And so there may be side swipes, and I don't know, maybe there's accidents. I don't think that's beyond the realm of possibility. Um, so I don't think that what I experienced was written. Like that's the only thing that could have happened. It's the thing that did happen. I think that we're kind of trained from the time we're very young to uh, to assume that things outside of ourselves cause us to feel a certain way, or things outside of ourselves um, reflect in a way that defines us or builds our identity. Um, And so I think this, maybe a lot of people would say, oh, this happened to you. This meaning came upon you in a sense. Um, the meaning of this experience was put upon me. But I don't think that way. I I think that we're the ones who carry around our purpose. So you can't make a wrong choice or a wrong decision where whatever choice you make, you're going to meet that which you intended to meet. It might be a bomb in Iraq, it might be a car wreck, it might be a drowning incident, but I was going to meet something that fulfilled my purpose. The purpose is mine. I carry that. So I think, I don't know, I run into a lot of people who are afraid of making the wrong decision. You can't make a wrong decision. You can't do it because you are the one bringing meaning and purpose to what you do. We bring ourselves to what we do and what we experience. The experience doesn't impose itself upon us. It may feel like it from the personality self, but from a whole self perspective, we don't experience anything that we haven't at least agreed to. Maybe not crafted, but we certainly agreed to it. That's anyway, that's what I'm given.
Very well said, and I agree. It's hard to answer that question when people ask about free will versus what was preordained. And I believe from interviewing all of you, from being a psychic medium myself, what I can't say I know for sure, but my interpretation is that it's both. Is
Hmm.
that we agree to certain themes. We
Yeah.
agree to certain things that are going to come up for us, and we have free will. So it's a choose your own adventure. You can literally do anything that you want to. And from what I understand, spirit guides will only intervene if you ask them to. But most of the time, the beings that are guiding you, angels, guides, whatever you call them, they're still going to let you do your own thing because
Hmm.
they can't just save us from everything, and they can't tell us how to live because then we wouldn't be doing what we're supposed to be doing, which is to learn to make our own choices, to grow and to evolve. I mean, as a human, but also as a soul. And so I think that you nailed it. I think that you could have decided not to go to Iraq and maybe something else would have happened that would have,
Hmm.
because you mentioned in the book, and we'll get into this, um, that, I mean, nobody would ask for what you went through. You you know, you were bombed. You were hit by a bomb and you suffered some serious injuries. And some things still linger, even though you look completely fine on the outside now. You still have some lingering, like mobility issues and vision issues and things like
Hmm.
that. And it was, I would assume that's a really traumatic thing to happen, even though when it happened, you didn't feel the impact coming back into the body. You did have to suffer from some pain. And now, oh, my body's not working like it used to. So, but you did say that part of that, I don't, you'll, I want you to put words because I can't remember
Hmm.
exactly, but the idea was you were sort of sent back here for a mission, and there was part of that was like I wasn't supposed to be able to have full I don't know if faculty's the word, but please put that into your own words so I don't misquote you.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I chose my injuries.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't remember everything that I agreed to do. And I don't think I honestly, I don't really care. I figure,
Yeah.
it'll come to me. I don't need to go chase it around. Um, but I definitely chose my injuries when I was out of the body. I was with another being playing around, giving myself different injuries, and we would see kind of a, I don't know how to describe it, a holographic image of the rest of my life with those injuries. And from that perspective, we thought it was very funny. Like, oh, look at that. Look at her trying to do everything with her left hand with no right arm. Um, from that perspective, things look very, very different. And that was very amusing. Obviously now once we get in the body, it's not as amusing.
Yeah.
And I think that it was certainly easier for me because I had that experience, even though I didn't remember it right away. I mean, when it came back full and vivid. But for a few months, I was very heavily drugged, and I was even sometimes just kept knocked out. And um, I don't, um, I don't, I don't think of any of that experience as suffering. I think that suffering is the mental interpretation of what you're experiencing. And I didn't have, uh, when I was in pain, uh, I didn't think it was pointless. And I didn't try to get out of it. I just said, well, I'm in pain and I'll endure it. And and that erases the suffering, really. I mean, the suffering is wanting things to be different. And in that experience, I mean, I look back now and I go, huh, I don't know. I don't know if how much of that has hung around. I mean, certainly some of it has stayed with me. That sense that when something physically changes, I just adapt to it. I mean, if I can't change something, um, get over it. It's not that easy for people. I can say that and I can look at myself and go, I don't know how I do that. I don't know how I do that. But I don't have expectations. I'm not trying to be somewhere else. So I got lucky. I don't think I suffered. I think that I was uncomfortable a lot of times, and sometimes it's still inconvenient, but I don't, yeah, I think I'm very, very lucky because, like I said, I don't know how I'm doing it.
Yeah. I mean, it could just be a coping mechanism, and it's
Hmm.
also very Buddhist in nature that
Hmm.
the concept of the more we swim against the current, the more we suffer. We've
Hmm.
heard this over and over. And I can't remember if it was in the book The Way of Zen or Buddhism Plain and Simple. One of the tools that I've used from whichever book that was is that when something is happening, rather than fight it, just say, this is what's happening right now.
Yeah.
This is what's happening right now. So it's not even surrender. I don't know. Maybe it is surrender. Yeah, I think it's surrender more than acceptance for me anyway. That it's not like you're saying, I give up. You're not being overtaken. You're just saying, okay, I accept what is right now. There's nothing because to fight it is
Mhm.
pointless. You can't get your but your hand, your wrist, your hand,
Hmm.
your injuries were to one of your hands was severe. So if you're yes, you can feel grief and you can feel sad, and you might, and also you can say, well, this is what I'm working with now, and that just helps take away from maybe that suffering that you mentioned, which is a really interesting. It doesn't mean it's good or bad. It's just the way that you handle it.
Right. Yeah, just is. Yeah, one thing I say to clients sometimes is that surrender isn't like just sitting down on the path, So you're walking along a path and life is good, and you drop down into a lowland that's all swampy and dreary and cold and wet. And surrender doesn't mean you just sit down on the path. Surrender means you say, well, here I am in the dank, dark swamp. I'm just going to keep walking, because if I keep walking, that's the way to get out. Sitting down on the path is not the way to get out. So, um, and you can deny, you can say, well, I don't want to be here. You can say that all you want, but you're there. You're on the path, and the only way to get out is walk. So keep walking.
Yeah,
Surrender doesn't mean you give up everything. Surrender means that you give up trying to make it different. And you
that's a
say,
good way to
here I
say it.
am.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
and
then
that
you keep
sometimes
going.
isn't hard to do. So
Hmm.
if we can't, no need, we don't need to beat ourselves up about feeling like, but I want my arm back. I
Yeah.
want my eyesight back. I want my eyeball back. But yeah, so, and I know that, as I said, we don't have to go into like all the details. If you want like the in depth, you can read it here. And it's, like I said, a really good read, really easy to read. But in terms of kind of where you were in your life at the time you were working in Iraq, what was your state of mind? What was happening in your life? Um, and and if you can just kind of share a little bit about what went on, that was this literal explosion, like literally and I think figuratively too, that just kind of shook everything up.
Yeah, I was working for the Corps of Engineers, a civilian working for the Corps of Engineers. I'd been over there for about 16 or 17 months. Um, I don't, what was going on? The only thing going on was Iraq. The only thing going on in my life uh, was work and, um, yeah, my friends over there. Um, the war zone is pretty immersive. It's a different world. And even when you do normal things, um, it's in an abnormal environment, even if you're on a relatively safe base. So my life was pretty, I would say, now I would say when my life was pretty small, it was very narrow. Um, but I liked it. Um, and that day, there was a guy that was fairly new to Iraq, and he hadn't been out to see some of the projects. So he was going out in the field. There were two Corps of Engineers, military guys, who were going with him, and they asked me to go along because I knew roads, because I had worked on this big road project over there. And I was in charge of some of the water projects that we were looking at. So, so there were four of us principals, they called us, four of us who worked there doing the reconstruction projects. And we always traveled off base in an armed convoy. And so we had four trucks. There was a lead truck with two men guards in it. And then I don't know if I was the second or third truck, I can't remember. Um, and two of us were in one truck, two of us in another, and we each had a driver and a guard in our trucks. And then there was a gun truck in the back, a fourth truck. And that day we also had an Iraqi police escort. So we were kind of a big convoy. And we visited um, a bunch of water projects, clean water projects, reverse osmosis projects for towns and things like that. And then visited a road project where I talked to, um, where I was the one who kind of led the what's going on here. And then on our way home, I was kind of half asleep. I had my head on my hand and eyes closed when the roadside bomb went off. And I did not lose consciousness. I also didn't open my eyes right away. I knew exactly what had gone on. I knew that it was serious because some of those bombs, they hit the wrong part of the truck or something, and people are not injured or injured only a little bit. I knew this was not that even before I opened my eyes. Um, so I opened my eyes. When I opened my eyes, the truck was still rolling down the road. All of us were injured. The rest of the team came and helped us out. But in that split second, um, what I remember is that I was suddenly not in the truck. I was in front of a large group, like thousands of beings. And I was on kind of a little stage. And I was downloading information to them. And I said I wasn't going to go back. They said, well, what if you did this for us? And I said, okay, I will go back. I'm paraphrasing.
Yes.
I'm making this short.
Yes.
And then I call it blinking from one environment to another because it was that fast. I just was in one environment, then I was in another environment. It's like switching channels or something. Um, so I blinked to this other environment that was sort of this velvety black space. And I wasn't in a human form. I mean, I was like an organization of energy is how I describe it, I think. And a couple beings were kind of tinkering with that organization of energy, um, kind of tuning it. And I did kind of form of a life review, and then I just went into this deep rest state. And when I was done with that, I went back to the thousands of beings and we did some logistics. Then I blinked again and I was kind of above the truck at about a 45-degree angle, looking down on the truck, and I could see all of us in the truck. I could see the truck, I could see the desert. And I could see it the way we might perceive it, but I could also see these things as organizations of energy. And I was with two other beings. This is where we were playing around with different injuries, setting different injuries, laughing our heads off, haha, and changing the injuries, thinking that was really funny too. And finally just chose the injuries. And then I blinked again and now I'm standing right next to the truck and I'm with about 8 or 9 other beings. And we're all talking about what I'm going to do, but talking about it now kind of like with the thousands of beings, we're talking about it as if we were sort of on the managerial level or the architect. And now we're talking about things from the ground level, like, okay, what's it like when we're pounding the nails and cutting the boards? You know, it's different when the closer you get to the physical world, the more real that stuff gets. And it's very much more practical kinds of discussion that we had. And then I popped back into the body. And I didn't remember this right away. I was very drugged up and I wrote I wrote about the incident um, about what I remembered when I came back in the truck right away, like within a couple months. Um, I think I was still I guess I was maybe a month out of the hospital. I was still heavily drugged. And I kept writing an account of this over and over because I thought, there's something here I'm supposed to remember. There's something here that happened that I'm not getting. And then one day I thought, well, what happened in like, that, just that blink between being asleep like this? And I actually heard a pop, and then I knew what had happened. So what happened in that? I didn't hear the explosion. So where was I? And all of a sudden, it was like, oh, I remember where I was. It just kind of all came back so vividly. I thought, how could I ever have forgotten this? It came back sort of complete. You know, when I when I started writing this experience, it was at first it was really hard because in some way I can perceive that whole experience as one single, how do I explain that? One single thing.
Mhm.
But to communicate that, you have to put it in time space. And so at first that was a real challenge. I think I had help doing it.
I was gonna say when I was reading it, I this is something I wanted to comment on how well you were describing for a like page and a half about how you were communicating with these beings.
Mhm.
And you just did it so well.
No, thank
And
you.
it was like my head was exploding. Not because of the way you wrote it, but because I knew I was like, she's trying to articulate something that is so not able to be articulated. And you did a great job. And yet it was like you kind of got to twist your brain into pretzels. Just like when I'm really, really interested in quantum physics.
Hmm.
I don't, my brain flips inside out before I even get to I don't think I could explain it. But I'm interested in listening about it, and then I often lose the trail because it's so dense.
Hmm.
And I felt like your book isn't written in a dense way, but that particular chunk, I could tell you were, um, it must have been. I was like, she did this so beautifully, and I could see how it was so hard to do because it's like you
Thank
can't
you.
even put it into words that it's telepathy. Okay, I mean, essentially, and that's how you and I
Outside.
and everyone else
Yeah.
communicates with the beings on the other side is like when people ask me, what if this loved one was Italian? What if they only speak Italian? And I explain it's not about the language because
Mhm.
telepathy is ideas. It's the understanding, it's the download, it's nonverbal. It's you
It's
put it into your words.
conceptual.
It's conceptual, thank you.
Hmm.
And so I could tell that trying to describe how you communicated with these beings, it was so I'm like, "Wow, yeah, that's it's impossible to explain." It feels like it's impossible to explain, and you did the best job that you could have done,
Yeah,
and
we don't
also
have
yeah,
we don't have a vocabulary for these things
yeah,
in our language. And maybe some of the Eastern languages do, but we don't have, and what we don't have concepts for, we don't have language for. What we don't have language for, we don't necessarily have concepts for. So how do we introduce ourselves to these concepts? We have to use the ideas that we've got. And I've had people tell me that they read the book feeling like they were getting more information than is in the words themselves. I was like,
yes.
oh, good. Yeah, good.
That's how I felt.
Because the
That's how I
concept
felt.
should be in there. I mean, sounds to me matter even. I like beautiful writing because sounds matter. Sound is pure vibration. Everything that exists is vibration. And so I felt like if I put the right words together in the right way, it would carry the vibration of a whole concept, not only, the words themselves or not only the concepts that we're already familiar with, but maybe they'll introduce the actual vibration of a bigger concept, which
Mhm.
is like, oh, wow. I love it when
Yeah,
people say
you're
that
right, because
because
that's
I'm
kind of what
so, oh.
I just decided just read it, don't try to understand every word,
Hmm.
just just absorb. And that's what I do
Yeah.
with that, with quantum physics learning as well.
Yeah, I remember doing that with the first Seth book that I read, or the only one that I read when I was in high school or college. I remember reading through it and going, I don't even understand a word of what they're saying. And I thought, well, I'll wait a couple months and try it again. And 2 or 3 months later, I picked up the book again and I was like, what was my problem? I get it. I get it. I mean, what's so hard to get? But I think that a lot of a lot of growth happens behind the scenes, you know,
Mhm.
unconsciously, subconsciously, we can introduce ourselves to complex things like physics. I'm the same way. I'm just lost with it. And yet, if we just keep going with it and then come back to that later, we're processing it on some level, I think.
Yes, I just interviewed someone a couple of days ago, and I know his name. It's just that I'm in perimenopause. It's
Yeah,
like we're I really know
I
him.
get
It's
it.
just not there right now. Um, and I had said to him, This interview blew my mind wide open." And it may not for everyone. I mean, I think it'll be really insightful, but it was because for me, there was a lot in our interview about sort of manifesting your reality and how we can sort of our imaginations creating reality. And look, I've been studying manifestation, quantum physics for so like years. And I'm like, yeah, I get the concept. But something in me, the way he put it into certain words or just it like sunk in a way where I'm like, and I even mentioned to my roommate, I can't even put it into words. I just
Hmm.
suddenly understood what that vibration is. I think that's the best way. And then
Hmm.
for the ever since we talked, I've been on this different flow where I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, it's not logical. It's a
Right.
feeling and it's a knowing and it's like I get the concept, but it's not logical anymore. Now I'm like, I remember that from before I came here.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I get it. I don't know how I get it. I can't even explain it. I just know that
Hmm.
I'm in the flow now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if we allow ourselves to get something without having to um, think it through in a linear way, or without having to feel like if we can't articulate it, we don't get it,
Yes.
I think we can let go of that. I think there are things that we know that we can't articulate. We don't have the vocabulary for them, or um, w- w- they're they're conceptually beyond beyond our language right now.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean we can't get it. You can feel it. You can feel something real.
Yeah.
You don't need
Yeah.
to be able to describe it. There are things that I didn't put in the book because how do you describe it? You can't.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
like
know how.
it goes beyond a feeling. It even
Mhm.
goes beyond a knowing.
It's a full experience.
Yeah, it's like my cellular DNA, like my
Right.
DNA changed with
Right.
Dennis Bullock. I know this. I just couldn't grab it. And the interview was to me one of the most profound, but it was more about how I don't know, there's something on my eyelash. Okay. There's for me it just like clicked something. It was like my
Yeah.
soul went, "Oh my God, I know exactly what I wasn't doing right." And now I understand what manifesting really is. And the idea of creating our own realities with a thought or an imagination. Even though I knew not to, I was taking it too literally of like
Hmm.
being in the end state, imagining all of that. Yes. And then there's also something about being in flow with it, which I can't
Just coming
explain. Just,
into
yeah.
harmonic with it.
Do you have any thoughts about that too? I mean, or is it about that kind of that concept of how we create with our imagination?
Well, imagination is, I think, the catalyst to creation. Um, it's the beginning. If you can't, if we can't imagine it, then we can't create it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that the whole idea of you can create your own reality and you can create anything you want. I think it kind of turns into a shopping mall for people, and I don't I can't really get on board with that.
Yeah.
I think it's there's more to it, and uh, I think that well, I like to sometimes point out to people if you're trying to create $1 million or something because you think will give you a feeling of security, then create the feeling of security instead. And you may be surprised at how that comes about. Um, so yeah, I'm wary of how that's kind of presented in the spiritual communities, but
Mhm.
yeah, we absolutely create our own realities.
Yeah,
You
and
know
then
how we
there's
do.
I know I have I'm very into it, and I also have the same kind of questions, or I don't think that there's one answer. As you said, okay, so the explosion happened, possibly, let's say it was possibly in your timeline. But then what about the other people involved? How is it part of their timeline? And it also has to serve the function of making sure every individual involved is experiencing what they need to experience. So that's where I kind of get heady about it, and I think, well, okay, so yes, it's not. It is you said something,
Communal.
collective or something
Communal.
communal.
Mhm.
That's what it was. It also has to be communally advantageous.
Yeah, I mean, when when and if we're all working with the flow in our creations, instead of trying to control the flow, then I think that it's like a dance. Then everything works. People aren't banging into each other, on the ballroom dance floor.
Hmm.
Um, but I think I think that we're not necessarily taught how to harmonize with that flow. Even, I don't know, even in the spiritual community, sometimes it's more about, like I said, acquiring the skills rather than kind of knowing yourself in relation to the all. And that's the key. I mean, that's where the wisdom is. That's where we slot into the flow and everything. It'll feel like it's creating itself, I think,
Hmm.
when we're really locked in.
Yeah. Um, when you had this sort of um, meeting, for lack of a better term, with these other beings that are people that you recognized, or souls that you recognized and that you knew you already knew, because that's where we come from. You had mentioned that there was a communication of, you need to go back because you have some stuff, even though you were like, I'll hang out here, sounds much better, it's a lot less stressful, there's no pain here, sounds pretty good to me. Most people I talk to do not want to go back. And what was it that you downloaded, understood about what more you had to do down here, or could do?
So nobody sent me back. I said I
You
didn't want to go
decided.
back. They said, "Would you be willing to do this?" I
That's
said
right.
yes.
That's right.
I didn't, in my experience, there was never anyone telling anyone what to do.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't remember all of it, and I don't, uh, what I do remember, I'm not really, I don't really want to talk about. The book was one thing, but um, I think that it's too easy for us because of the way we're enculturated to compare ourselves. And if I said, this is what I'm doing, then I think that people's natural response is, oh, well, that's not important, or, oh my God, doesn't she think she's important? Or, well, that's not what I'm doing, or I don't, that's not what's important about my experience. What's important is that I have things to do, and so do you. We all
Yeah.
have things we're doing. And some of those things I think are personal, and some of those things are serve a community or serve the all. And I think whether we know that we're doing them or not, we're going to meet them because they're within us. We carry them with and through us. Um, I think that it certainly sometimes helps me to know that I made a plan or I agreed to a plan. This isn't, you know, challenges can sometimes feel random or feel it's easy to feel like we're victims because the way we're enculturated. Oh, this is happening to me. Um, Poor me. Well, what if you created it? Then how does that change that relationship to what's happening? It certainly, for me, makes it a lot easier to deal with or a lot easier to accept. Yeah, so I think, yeah, I'll
When
stop
I
there.
asked the question, I heard in my head, she's not going to want to be self-important. And that's why it's funny this the way that you said it was exactly what I assumed
Yeah.
you would say because I know you wouldn't want to put yourself above anybody in terms of saying I had this grand mission and that I'm supposed to save the world. And that's not of course what it means. And so you explained it very well. It's like for whatever reason you still again, you could have stayed, but also there's more that you could work out. Like there's more that you could it may be being of service. Do you still do readings for people? Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought so. And I was looking for that online, but I know that someone in the comments of one of your interviews said that they had a wonderful reading with you. But I found your art page, and so I was going to ask you about that
Mm-hmm.
and your availability for that. But that doesn't mean that you think you're saving the world or do you know you're being
Oh,
of
I don't want
service.
to.
No, you're being of service, and you're doing what you feel called to do and what your abilities allow you to do. And also, like you said, maybe some of the things were just things that you still want to do for yourself in terms of it could be emotional. It might literally just be more experience, more
Mhm.
interactions, more connections, more enjoyment, more being in this body to experience the density of this world, which can be both beautiful and hard.
Mhm.
And even if it's just painting and you're like sitting by a lake, that is your purpose. That's all of our, nobody has to perform, produce to be
Right.
important. And
Right.
I had a feeling that you would say that. And even like as a medium, I don't think I was put here to be a medium, but I know that I have abilities that can help people. And to me,
Mm,
that feels important.
yeah.
And that for me, and you could even say it's selfish. Personally fulfilling. If you look at it that way, like I love
And
doing
yeah,
it.
yeah, and I think those kinds of things, it's good that they are reciprocal, you
Yeah.
know? It's helping people feels good to me and feels good to other people.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, I think that helping people, you have to be careful and help the people who want help,
Hmm.
not the
Yeah.
people who don't want help. Um, But yeah, and to be honest, I'm pretty lazy. I mean, I would be happy to just like travel the world or stay at home in the basement reading, you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
I'm doing what shows up because I feel like, you know, as a personality self, I say, well, it's it's probably it's probably good to do what service is available
Hmm.
for me to do. Not,
Yeah.
I'm saying that I'm not all that.
Right.
I'm not the great person. I'm not any different
We're
from
all
most
human.
people. Most of us want to do our own stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But if
We,
it shows
yeah.
up to do, you know, shows up to somehow be of service, then yeah, let's do it.
That's how I feel. I'm passionate about mediumship because I love it
Mm-hmm.
fascinates me
Mm-hmm.
and it shows me that there's real magic in the world and that we aren't alone and that we aren't going to die and
Mm-hmm.
that we are that this is a dream. And but the beauty of it is that it helps people in ways that we don't even
Oh yeah, in ways we
know.
can't even imagine. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes the something small in what I consider like just kind of in passing in a reading, someone will email me later and go, "Oh my God, that changed my life." And you're
Same,
like,
and I'm
"What?"
and sometimes I'm like, "Real?" Well,
Shocked.
I'm
Yeah.
shocked because I think how fantastic. Or
Yeah.
maybe I even thought, "Oh, that wasn't," from a judgmental standpoint, sometimes I think that wasn't one of my best. But it's not
Yeah.
about me,
It's
even
not
though
about me. What comes
no.
through is what comes through, and it's for them. It's not for us, right?
Right. And the
Yeah.
intention every time is I pray
Yeah.
that everything that comes through, use me as a vessel, take me out of it,
Hmm.
let me let go of my ego, my doubt, my fear,
Yeah.
my self-doubt, and just use me as a use me to tell them what they need to hear today. And
Yeah.
I might leave that reading going, God, I felt like that was kind of like, meh, not the most, there was no mic drop moment. It was, and
Right.
then and I think, oh God, I hope they didn't think that sucked. And then they come back saying, everything changed because of that reading. And I
Yeah.
think, okay, spirit, trust spirit. They know what that person needs to
Yeah.
hear today. Just
Yeah.
because I'm not getting massive chills or I'm not getting the feeling, I'm just saying, please tell them what they need to hear and let it be through my mouth, through my instrument, and that's it.
Mhm.
But it can be easy to judge when you have some readings that are just so powerful. And you're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I'm in the flow. I feel it. I see them. I hear them. They're just handing it to me on a platter. And then other times
Mhm.
it's more gentle and just, this is what they need today. And this is all they need
Mhm.
today. And it isn't up to me to judge how it landed for them.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, just like you said, you just kind of answered my question about how life looks to you now, and um, do you feel more? This is funny, but do you feel more in the flow than you did before, or is it all just one big flow?
Well, I think sometimes feel more in the flow, but I mean, I think that comes and goes in everyone's life. And I don't know. I mean, maybe that's part of what we're all aiming toward is to be in the flow as much as possible. It's certainly a beautiful place to be. But I also think that we came into this physical world as it is, knowing exactly what it was. And I think there's nothing wrong with throwing ourselves into it as it is. You know, I think sometimes maybe the way we learn is to lose that connection for a while and get buried in this lifetime and then lift ourselves back out and go, wow, that was intense. What did I learn there? In the same way uh, that an actor maybe, you know, when they're on the stage, I I imagine that they're kind of embodying that character. They're not going, well, I'm not really in the flow right now, you know.
Yeah,
They're probably embodying that character, and then when they go off stage, that's when they're putting that experience in a context. So I think, yeah, I think I go in and out of it, and that's okay with me. I don't, maybe I struggled more, like I worried more before I
mm,
had my experience about, oh, you know, am I doing enough? Um, am I trying hard enough? Am I aware enough? And now I'm like, yeah, I'm where I am. Whatever, you know. I'm
yeah,
where I am today, and that's okay. It's okay that today I feel pretty connected and like I feel like this is I'm on for this interview. It feels good. It's flowing. And tomorrow, if I feel crummy, then I feel crummy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always notice I go through these phases where I'm like everything is great and perfect,
Hmm.
and then it always comes, I don't want to say crashing down, it doesn't, but there are always ebbs and flows. And then I go
Hmm.
back, oh, here we are again. But then I always remember, but remember, then there's going to be an up, there's going to be an up, and it's going to go back up again. And then it goes back down again. And that's just it's not that everything I love crashes. It's just that's the flow of life, the ebb and flow of life.
Yeah, and I also notice that's um, enough times that I could that it could be something I do something more about. Sometimes when when I'm in the ebb, it's because of my own expectations, and I can get rid of those anytime I want to.
Right.
You know, I
Yeah.
can notice those and go, oh, maybe throw those out. You know, today is today. It's fine. You know.
Yeah. And if there's you know, like I said, you so graciously show up to do podcasts and to share your book and to share your gifts. And there's always a why, right? And I would love to hear what it is that you hope people will um get. I'm just going to say get. What do you hope that people will get from hearing your experience, your story, uh and your insights, as humble as you are? What is it that you really want to share? What do you want people to know the most?
I guess I want people to know that even when life doesn't seem to make sense to them on a personality level, that it makes sense to their soul and it's okay. It's all right. And also, I think we need to be our own best friends. Like
Yeah.
nobody's perfect. That's okay. Love all of that. Love the whole personality. Your best friend, you love them.
Hmm.
You're like, yeah, I know their weaknesses. I don't care. Well, be that for yourself too. It's
Mm.
important, I think.
Oh, yeah. And where can people reach out to you?
I have a Facebook author page, Natalie Sudman, and Instagram, Natalie Sudman. And I have my art is on a website, nsudman.com. And there is a link there somewhere that goes to traceofelements.com, which is where you can find out about the readings. And there are in the blog roll, there's a few essays, and there's also, if you keep scrolling down, there's links to a bunch of other interviews if anyone's interested in that.
Fantastic. Thank you
And
so
I'll
much,
post that.
Natalie, for being
Hmm.
here today. Natalie Sudman, really appreciate your contribution to the podcast and the world by simply existing as the unique
Hmm.
human that you are.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you.